Howdy, folks. Happy Monday. We are back. We have lots to talk about. The NHL, the Board of Governors meeting in, I believe, California right now. I know that Elliot Friedman was out there and talking about some things that are on the agenda that maybe later in the week we'll talk about with Kevin Allen when we have him on the show.
Why don't they ever meet in Minnesota? Like, why does it always have to be some place they could play golf?
Gee, I wonder why. Did they bring their clubs with them, for sake? Come on, please. All right, well, we'll start with some pre-show stuff, and obviously it'll be, well, some baseball stuff, some football stuff. Go ahead.
This will be a long pre-show. I will let you know that. Okay. NFL, let's just talk about the refereeing.
Yes.
There are at least 3 games. It cost 3 teams at least 3 games.
Right.
Now, the most stark one was probably the Jets one because they called no pass interference on the field. The Jets challenged it. They get pass interference, and then they get the game-winning field goal. So that has a direct impact on the game. The coach from the Dolphins went crazy. He's probably going to get fined because he went up to the ref after the game. And, can't blame him. But it's the Dolphins, so I don't feel bad. All right. The Patriots, there were a couple calls in that game. They booed. The fans booed the Patriots at halftime. Now, this is how bad the media would like to cover up for the Patriots stuff. They were like, well, they could have been booing over the refs. I don't know if they were actually booing the players. No, Tom Brady talked about it after the game and said, yes, sometimes as an athlete you get booed. It might be the only honest thing Tom Brady's ever said.
Yeah, and I watched a little of the first half of that game. They were booing because the Patriots' offense was completely ineffective against the team's defense, which, maybe it's a little bit of an overstatement to say Kansas City's defense sucks, but they're not good. And, the Patriots' offense, which I think was averaging 14 points a game the last 3 games, they have a world-class defense, and if their offense got on track, they might have another chance for a Super Bowl, but they just seem to not be able to get things on track. And then they did in the second half, but the things that they missed out on in the first half cost them.
Yeah, they should have just drafted the next Gronk, but they didn't, so that's their problem. It's just, and I do want to mention about tight ends. I did just write an article on Sportsology about the Jets' ineffectiveness to draft the tight end, and I detailed it with a recent one that they really blew in the 2017 draft. Even though that was a running back draft, there was a great tight end they could have gotten. Anyhow, moving on. The refereeing in general now in the NFL, we're late in the season here, and it's gotten no better. Matter of fact, they're getting as bad a press for the refereeing as they did for the kneeling. And what's interesting is, I'm telling you right now, the only thing propping up that sport is gambling. Because I see it and hear it all the time. The games are worse. We're all talking about, we only watch our teams in a couple of other games. People are watching because of gambling.
Well, yeah, I'll give you an illustration of that. I went out last night to get a bite to eat after doing some writing, and local Buffalo bar that we've both been to for wings, and it was chock full of Baltimore Ravens fans, obviously basking in the glow of their victory over the Bills. And they were watching intently at the Seattle-LA Rams game. And when the Rams scored a touchdown or 2, they were extremely enthused. And this is 3 or 4 guys. There are no implications for that game for the Ravens in terms of the playoffs. So it had to be either fantasy sports or they had bet on the Rams, because there's no other reason for them to be into that game other than that. So, yeah. And
I actually got a call from my best friend yesterday, and he was in Atlantic City for a short time. He said he was going to call me and ask me about an NHL game because it was Islanders-Dallas, but he said if he knew he called me, I would talk him out of betting the Islanders. So he went and bet the Islanders, and he lost.
So you're responsible based on what he thought you were going to tell him,
because he knew I would try and talk him out of it. But the last thing is so the Baseball Hall of Fame, 2 times in the last I want to say 10 years, I really got on a crusade about players getting in. One was Burt Blyleven, and I would say 1 or 2 years after the article he got in. Now same with Ted Simmons.
Yeah.
2 years later, after I wrote an article about it, he finally got in.
Yeah.
They are just slow in getting in these veteran players that are just waiting, and there's no reason to wait. Like, I don't understand. Are they worried about, they only had to get 13 votes. 13 votes isn't a lot. And matter of fact, one more thing, there's a local voter who happens to be a Flyers writer and a baseball guy, and I got him to look at the Ted Simmons thing, and he could have, for all I know, he could have been one of the 13 votes.
Yeah, 13 of 16 votes. But and like, I have no problem with Simmons because you mentioned him before, and I agreed because I remember him and how really great of a hitter he was with the Cardinals and then the Brewers later on in his career. And catchers are sort of under. I think
he caught a lot of games.
Yeah, there are not enough catchers in the Baseball Hall of Fame, and Marvin Miller deserves it as well. Although I understood the reason why there was some resistance, but he deserved to get in. What I have a problem with, and you know where I'm going here, Russ, is that they're extremely slow on players. I think that based on the Harold Baines entry into the Hall of Fame a couple years ago, that really these guys should be in. Keith Hernandez didn't even get a vote, according to what I saw. Don Mattingly got 6, and Thurman Munson got, I believe, 3. And it's like, I mean, that these are jokes. I mean, you want to make the argument that you made for Simmons for Munson, maybe you can say that he was late in his career when he died, but I think he probably would have had 2 more fairly decent seasons. And if he did, then his numbers would be Hall of Fame worthy as a catcher, because there are not many catchers in the Hall of Fame.
The worst thing that happens to a player that's close to being in the Hall of Fame is if they've been dead for a lot of years, like Gil Hodges and Thurman Munson,
right?
They just seem to never get enough support. They didn't die from drinking Gold Peak, but
Yeah, no, I
having this strange thing sticking out the side of their hair.
I thought that was Take a Boost. I thought that was a.
No, I've decided because I drink so much of this Gold Peak Diet Iced Tea that the kids pointed out to me that I'm really destroying the environment with these plastic bottles, which is actually true. So I went to 1 of these a day versus like a.
You can still recycle
it. Can I take a moment just to rip on Coca-Cola, who is a company that I love?
No, we're going to use them as a sponsor.
Yeah, well, they're a company that I love, and I've drank their product for many years, and that's probably primarily responsible for why I'm a type 2 diabetic. But one of the products that they had put out the last few years was something called Coca-Cola Life, which was a light sugar, like 6 grams of sugar, and then stevia, which is a non-sugar sweetener.
Or you can take your varnish off your car with it. Either one, yeah.
Well, okay, whatever. But all I know is that it was I hate the taste of Diet Pops. Aspartame is disgusting. I would rather drink seltzer water than drink pop with aspartame in it, or any other product with aspartame. So this was something that was acceptable. I liked it. It wasn't bad. It didn't taste terribly. There was still that natural sugar taste. They discontinued it last year.
It was the green bottles, right?
Right, it was the green bottles. Now what they've come out with, and I saw it in Canada, I haven't seen it in the US yet, they came out with Coke with stevia, no sugar.
Just plain stevia.
Yeah, this is the problem, because they did this a few years ago with Splenda. They had Coke with Splenda. These companies don't know how to balance the amount of
the basic thing. Yeah, it really doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean,
because I'll tell you right now, Coke with Splenda and Coke with stevia is like drinking regular Coke in terms of the sweetness, like drinking regular Coke and pouring a 5-pound bag of Domino sugar in it. It's that friggin'.
Can we break down one thing? If we hired a scientist for this show, which I think X should, because we have the budget.
I live with one, but yeah, sure.
We live with one. We can easily recreate a Coca-Cola, which again, they keep that stupid recipe in a safe, and guys can never travel, and I shouldn't say guys, but actually employees can never travel together if they're high ranking.
Oh, I know. It's ridiculous. And years ago, there was a book that was out. It was really cool. I don't remember this or not, but there was a book that came out with all the secret recipes of things like this. Like where
ridiculous.
Someone was going around and figured out what the special sauce on the Big Mac was. They figured out how to make the herbs and but not quite herbs and spices, of Kentucky Fried Chicken. Someone actually wrote a book. It was really great.
But think about what this stupid recipe is worth, and you're trying to tell me after like a week, a scientist can't come up with something really close? Come on.
Oh yeah, no, they can. But the secret ingredient is love. Russ.
Yeah.
And Funky, I thank you for the suggestion, but the problem is that even the Mexican Coke tastes better than regular Coke because it's pure cane sugar, but it's sugar, and it's like it's like 30 grams of sugar. I'm a diabetic. I can't.
However, can I bring this up for a second?
Like to replace you, they got cinnamon Coke instead. So go ahead.
Great.
When in Philadelphia, and if you notice other places in the NHL now, we're seeing more and more Coke than we used to see Pepsi. Like they've actually, I've seen this like you could never go to an NHL event since I started doing this.
Pepsi is gross.
Where you could get Coke, but now you can't. Like I forget what the first event I was. I think it was the Stanley Cup Finals last year where there's Coke instead of Pepsi. So I think obviously there's some kind of deal was struck there.
Yeah. Now I like last thing is like my second favorite pop is Werner's. Of course, that is has sugar. There's a Diet Werner's. I have yet to take. I don't want to buy a refrigerator box of 12 cans of a pop that I may hate. So it's like I'd like to buy like one bottle of Diet Werner's to find out what it tastes like, just to see if that's an acceptable option. But right now, like I'm popless. I have to go back to seltzer water. Thanks a lot, Coke.
Drink a Toast is always available. Always available. You just have to drive to Gloucester, New Jersey. If you can drive to Gloucester, New Jersey, you can get it anytime. You'll have it.
Start the show.
Real quick. Special shout out to Carol Spinney, who is the I'm usually Russ is usually the person who died person, but Carol Spinney was Big Bird and Oscar the Grouch passed away yesterday. Really sad.
Russ the Grim Reaper Cohen.
Really sad thing. And obviously my son being a big puppet person and makes Muppets and is friends with some Muppeteers from the Muppets. Really sad. So anyway, thoughts go out. I mean, we all kind of we definitely grew up with Big Bird, who, launched in 1968 and was 6 years old for 52 years or whatever he was. So pretty funny. If you want to search something funny on the internet, search up. It just came out a couple of days ago with the new Big Bird, who's really the guy who's doing. I mean, this Carol Spinney was 85 years old. So
yeah.
But the new Big Bird taking a lie detector test. It's really funny. You'll enjoy it. Just search it on YouTube. It's really good. Let's move on. Let's go to the show. Here we go. Ready, guys?
Yeah.
Right. It is. Hello, Hockey World. I mean, I'm just going to do something special for people because I always want to do something. We're going to do so now you can see where to go. Okay. Hello, Hockey World. It is Monday, December 9th, 2019.
I'm Michael Angelo, and rest in peace, Coca-Cola Life.
I'm Russ Cohen, and we should remember John Lennon because he did pass away a couple of days ago. It's just we didn't have a show on that day.
Yeah, that was yesterday too, and that's
39 years in a couple of days ago.
39 years, and
39 years and a couple of days ago. And actually, I saw a YouTube where on Monday Night Football, Howard Cosell broke in and mentioned it, and that was I don't know where
I was watching the game.
Oh, you were Miami? Yeah, you were. Yeah, Miami.
Yeah, I was 13 years old at that point. Yeah. I was like, and football meant something, but anyway.
I was 17, but I think I was probably out drinking with my phony ID at that point.
I found out because I was a newspaper delivery kid who went and picked up my papers of the Courier Post, which was an afternoon newspaper at that time, and I would pick it up at the after school. I would just ride my bike to get the papers, and there it was, that John Lennon had been shot. That's which is really sad. She was definitely one of my mentors. But I'm Michael, and you're watching the HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And to start off, I had something kind of fun. I thought, not fun. I'm going to start off with some injury notes from the Flyers because
that's a riot.
Yeah, that's something fun too. But this is I go to. Yeah, so we have three. The Flyers announced 11:25 a.m. just a few, I guess, an hour and a half ago or 2 hours ago now. Forward Travis Konecny has a concussion. He's out indefinitely. The forward Joel Farabee will not practice today because he has his wisdom teeth removed, which tells you when you got young players when they're missing because their wisdom teeth are removed. And forward Oscar Lindblom will not practice today for maintenance.
Yeah. So let me talk about that because I was at the game. First off, I want to bring up the Farabee wisdom teeth thing.
Yeah.
Most dentists are used car salesmen. And the reason I say that is 20 years ago, while my wife had just gotten her wisdom teeth taken out, that same dentist said, you need to have your wisdom teeth taken out because they're right at the surface and they could break any time and you can get really sick. And I said, I'll tell you what, I don't even feel them. They don't hurt. When they do, I'll come running back 20 years ago.
Yeah.
These have to be really hurting them.
I mean, they do it. And I had it taken out too, which is really fun. And then I got the fun thing that you can get sometimes after you wisdom teeth take it out, which is called dry sockets, which is every bit as disgusting and weird as it sounds. So yeah, but I had that too.
No, I had all 4 of them taken out at the same time.
Oh,
Yeah, because they were all growing in like at a 45-degree angle, so it would have ruined my teeth if I hadn't taken them out. And let's just say it was 2 weeks of soup and ice cream.
yeah.
One part was not bad, the other part was terrible.
Yeah, and you gotta eat a lot of gum. The new thing is gummy bears because they want you to strengthen your mouth. So you eat like a lot of gummy type thing. So
Konechny hit. All right. So
Konechny hit. Yep. Talk, Gress.
Well, it's at the game. Borieski basically does what a lot of the goons now do, and I'm going to put Marchand in that list, and I'm going to put Radko Gudas in that list because now Nick Ritchie's out 6 to 10 weeks.
Yes.
I'm going to put who else? There was another hit. Zadorov in that list.
Yep.
And what they do now is they give a hit that is so close to being legit that 9 times out of 10 the refs are fooled, right? So Borieski hits Konechny, hits him in the face. He goes down like a ton of bricks. We all know he's concussed. No penalty, no suspension. They do give Brady Tkachuk a penalty after the game because, again, in a recent referee development, Tkachuk gets called for 2 minutes. I think it was for a slash, and he was just like, really? And he threw his stick down, and then he started smashing Lawton's face into the ice because he was just like, well, if you're going to call something that I don't think I did, I'm going to really make it worth my while.
Yeah, he jumped him and pummeled him.
Right, and he pummeled him. He got a $2,500 fine. He didn't even get suspended. So at the end of the day, and the Marchand hit's interesting too because Marchand turned and hit him like a WWE wrestler hits a guy with his butt, and usually they go into a ring post or something like that. Makar had the puck, got the puck to his teammate. So if you're telling me that hit was to get him to lose the puck, it wasn't because he wasn't even close to losing the puck. Yeah. But now he's injured for a while. He's got a shoulder injury and upper body.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, the result of that hit was so weird because it didn't look really bad as compared to other Marchand assaults that he's had over his career.
And he despises them.
Right, and Makar sort of like reacted like he'd been concussed. He sort of staggered and lost his equilibrium and then sort of regained it and went to the bench. So it was, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying, Bill C. says Marchand's hit was as clean as it can be. No, it wasn't. It was clean for Marchand. It was not clean.
And let me bring up another one. Brendan Lemieux last night, he goes in backside first. Cody Glass sees him coming. The puck did just leave, and I'm tired of hearing about the puck story because it has nothing to do with the puck being there or not anymore. These are guys just wanting to get free shots. And Lemieux pins him against the glass, right? But that's not what hurts him, Eck. His left arm goes around and elbows him in the head, goes into the glass. Cody Glass is out, and he's probably out with a concussion now too. Yeah. And I'm telling you, these guys, Lemieux was not penalized or anything, and everybody could say, well, it's a clean hit, and it's as clean as it can be. Players are getting devastating injuries. And by the way, are any of these players we're talking about bad players? No. They're some of these teams' best players.
Yeah. They're well, okay.
We're seeing top players go.
Well, right, but that's the thing. The plan of attack for some of these teams is get their stars.
Right,
that's nothing new, obviously, but it's not hitting the stars. It's like taking the stars out.
It is
injuring the stars that we have issues with.
As an example, nobody's targeting Tyler Pitlick.
Right. I mean, honestly, if you're Buffalo and you're playing Edmonton last night, are you telling me you're not trying to hit Draisaitl and McDavid? You're trying to knock them out of the game because that improves their chances of winning. You can't catch McDavid; he's that fast.
Yeah.
You're not going after Zach Kassian. You want Zach Kassian to play 20 minutes.
Well, no, of course you want to hit these guys. You want to pound them, but you don't want to hurt them. I mean, it's different. It's a very different thing. Like there's the idea of like these high like head hits or still.
You could hit a guy in the chest every time, but you also have to know when you're hitting a guy on the boards, his head could slam against the board. So at some point, there has to be a refinement of this rule because there is no give in this glass anymore. There's none.
Yeah, there is no give, and it's brutal, and we're seeing, and there's no reason for it. Honestly, players need to respect each other more than this. It always bothers me to no end. It's like of all the things, I know winning is winning, and players trying to keep their jobs is one thing, but come on now, you got to respect. They're smart enough to know.
guys taking free shots all the time. Well, now we're seeing it a lot in the NHL. And the thing about it in the Flyers game, the players knew that hit by Borieski was so dirty that there were 2 other fights after that to try and avenge it.
Yeah, which is something. I mean, that's like, at least give the Flyers credit for that, I guess, because
you do, but those fights don't happen if there's not justice taken on the ice, and there wasn't.
But then again, we know these teams don't have that. Like, there's only one team with a Tom Wilson. That puts, you don't see Ovechkin getting hit as much, maybe because Tom Wilson's out there. So that does play into it. There's no question about that. People who think it doesn't are crazy. I mean, it really does. Players know, like, you're playing against.
But they'll wait till Tom Wilson. They'll wait till Tom Wilson's not on the ice. And then
if you hit Ovechkin, you're going to feel it from Tom Wilson eventually.
Sure, they'll worry about the retribution later. But if they get a great player out of the game, they don't care if somebody else fights Tom Wilson and is the lamb and they go into slaughter. They don't care because they got the other player's player out.
Yeah, I think that may be more true in the playoffs. I think in the regular season,
go look at that Ottawa game. If there's one player you want to take off the Flyers to derail their offense, it's Travis Konecny. It shouldn't be that way. But it is. That's how valuable he is. How did the Flyers look the rest of that game, and how close was that game after?
No, it was way too close. And no question. I mean, Travis Konecny, and the way Konecny plays, and I've always said the thing you love about Konecny is he plays without any fear, really. He does play full out. He plays almost as if he's, in the best possible way. And I've said this to him and he's laughed himself. Like, he plays like he doesn't have a brain in his head because he just goes. And he just goes and goes and goes. And he doesn't have any issue with going hard. And what you worry about with stuff like this is when guys start getting concussions, that definitely affects their game. And Konecny needs to play all out all the time, or else he is not what he is.
I mean, I'm imagining up at the Department of Players Safety that there's a sign hanging that says "Be back in 5 minutes."
Yeah. No, there's
the Blues Brothers.
Yeah, really. Seriously.
I mean, do you think they're doing a good job? I don't.
No, I don't either. I mean, I think that.
I think it's.
Someone brought this up to me last week about, and I wasn't on the show when you guys talked about it, I don't think, but the Mrazek, Thornton fight, sort of quote unquote fight, where if Mrazek goes down like that and lying on the ice like that because of like he was shot.
I thought it was a dive by Mrazek.
It was a dive. It's a dive, but he's laying there like he's shot. I mean, how is that not going into like into a dark room somewhere? Like, how does Mrazek end up continue playing in that situation? Like, how is that even possible? That a guy obviously gets hit in the head or whatever and pretends like he's hit really hard, like he's shot. I don't know, but that whole situation was crazy because I was really more just baffled by the lack of response by both teams on two star players. Like, the fact that no one protects Mrazek and the fact that no one protects Joe Thornton. Like that's allowed to happen.
Well,
insane.
Let me just address Bill C in the chat because he's talking about Marchand and how Marchand is a superstar,
which Brad Marchand.
Well, which is I agree, he's a superstar. But the thing is, he is so. Brad Marchand is so borderline when it comes to what he does that normally I'm the one who rails against the superstar treatment that guys like Ovechkin get, because Ovechkin's dirty and he's big and he can hurt people, but he never gets called on it because he's Alex Ovechkin. Brad Marchand should get superstar treatment, but he's such a dirtbag that he deserves to get suspended. I mean, I would anybody take Brad Marchand on their team? Of course. He's a phenomenal talent. He's just a dirtbag.
He reminds me of Claude Lemieux, and he's taken it to that next level.
Yeah, except he's even better than Claude Lemieux ever was. But yeah, Claude Lemieux was good at times. And Claude Lemieux was obviously a clutch playoff player, but
he was also dirty.
He was incredibly dirty, but that is part of what makes Marchand's game Marchand, and because there's no question that line, when they go out there, you can't ignore the fact that Brad Marchand's on the ice, and that does play into your thinking. If you're a defenseman or you're a winger or whatever like that, you either want to get back at him, you think you're going to get clobbered by him or anything like that. And don't tell me that doesn't open up the ice for Pastrnak and Bergeron. And it's just and Patrice Bergeron. It's no question that he opens up a ton of ice for them beyond just his abilities. And he is the kind of player that, I mean, we've all played with players like this in the past that, you play with them and you're like,
here's my question, Eck.
Man, they're great. But when you play against them, you don't want anything to do with them. He is definitely one of those players, because you talk to the Bruins players about Brad Marchand, you get a very different tale. Like they think he is the best thing ever.
And sure, why not? Why is Marchand waiting for Cale Makar, a rookie, to have that puck, who's their second best player, instead of Jason Demers?
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right.
To answer Thomas in the chat, he's like, who's a worse rat, Marchand or Wilson? I don't consider Wilson a rat. I consider Wilson a goon. I consider
Wilson does it, and he doesn't try and hide it. Marchand tries to hide it. That's
that's the old like Sean Avery type thing.
Marchand is like
or Joey Kosher, who were like guys
Kenny Linsman in the vein of Kenny Linsman.
Yeah. I mean, the most frustrating thing back when we actually had fighting in hockey, like guys like Kosher or Avery.
Well, Kosher would fight.
He would fight, but he would oftentimes he was the guy. Yeah, no.
3 fights in the Flyers game. There were 2 fights in the Ranger game.
Yeah, no, there's no question about it. But I think that you used to see players that would start these fights and then like they would be out of the pile and the fights would continue. Like they would be the ones who started the whole thing. That was like a Sean Avery trick.
No, but different guys are fighting now. Voracek fought. Joachim Nordstrom fought. Like,
they all have to fight because there's no fighter on the team.
They just said it on Hockey Central last night. Apparently, there was a fight between Ryan Getzlaf and Nick Ehlers.
Yeah. Nick Ehlers can't fight.
Yeah,
no, that's what happens. I mean, it's a funny thing about it. Like we talked for years about how fighters had to be skilled skaters. Now, actually, skaters have to be fighters because there's no one else to fight.
But here's something that I think is a bad sign. In Saturday's game in St. Louis, Travis Dermott from the Leafs got into a fight with Troy Brouwer. I didn't see it. It was early in the second period. I missed it. That was the first fight that the Leafs have had in 31 games in the entire season.
Yeah,
I don't think that's a good sign because I'm not saying I want them to go out and be the Broad Street bullies, but I can count at least on one hand the number of times that Matthews, Tavares, Marner have been slammed into the boards and there's been no response. And I don't know what instigated this fight between Dermott and Brouwer, but I think Brouwer was just trying to get the Blues going because they had a particularly bad game. But honestly, I think the fighting and responding is incumbent upon a team when their star players are focused on it. You have to do it. Otherwise, it's open season. And you cannot allow that to happen.
And I think this was an issue with with Babcock and stuff like that too. I honestly felt like that. I mean, the fact that they have played the Bruins 4 times already, 3 times at least.
Three.
And they didn't have a fight in any of those games. How can you not have a fight in a Bruins game if you're a Leaf team in 3 games? I mean, taking the odds on that, I would say that's pretty good. Great. I mean, at least, a team that knocked out.
You have to be competitive to have a fight, and the Leafs weren't really competitive.
Right. You have to be competitive. And I mean, this is a team that locked you out from last year. There should be energy. There should be high, emotions going. And that, I think that sometimes the issue that I've had with the Leafs, and I've had this with other teams as well this year, that they're the more skilled teams, some of them, and I'm finding this true with Vegas lately too. Like when I watch them, is that these more skilled teams are tending to play like they're more skilled teams, like all the time, and thinking that, because there's that thing of when you get enough skilled players together, they start to play like just wanting to do everything pretty and do everything right, make on
the periphery.
Yeah. And then, no one goes to the net and the hockey doesn't work that way. Unfortunately, you can't, skill against skill. You still need to score ugly goals. You still need to crash the net. You still need to do all these things. So none of that's been happening. And it's really been happening a lot with Vegas lately too, and watching that game a little bit last night, first of all, Georgiev, let's talk about him for a second. I mean, he's got 2 shutouts in the last 4 games. He
can only play 2 more games, though, because then his AHL eligibility runs out and they can't send him down. Because then he has to clear
waivers then.
He has to clear waivers, and he won't. So they have to make it.
There's no way, but don't you think this is it, though? He's a Ranger now?
Well, I mean, you would think he gets traded tomorrow, but their next decision is we either play him and keep him up here all year, or we play him and trade him, or we send him down and don't talk about him the rest of the year and then trade him at the draft. Those are their choices.
Or if you want to call up Shesterkin, then you're gonna have to keep 3 goalies on the
right. They're not going to keep 3 goalies.
I mean, the bigger issue, guys, it probably comes in the expansion draft, right? But I don't know if that matters.
Well, that's why I think Pittsburgh and the Rangers are going to face that problem. Not this summer, but the following summer when, so next year there's the time for them to make a trade of the extra goaltenders before the deadline or this summer, because if they hold on to those guys next year, they're going to get pennies on the dollar. But I know that there's more than just Toronto that needs a backup goaltender out.
Well, I'm going to give you
Vegas needs a backup goaltender.
Yeah, they do in the worst way.
I'm going to give you another team. The Minnesota Wild are in playoff position.
Mm-hmm.
Levin Dubnyk is having health issues with his wife, so he is with his family.
Yeah.
I wonder if he misses like another month, will they pick up a goalie? Because I know they're playing that rookie Kakkonen.
Capo Kakkonen.
But they can't play him all year with Stalock. They might need another legit backup to play if Dubnyk can't come back. Like, there could be a situation where he doesn't come back. We don't know. So Minnesota might be even in the market if they're actually in the playoff hunt. That's
why it was surprising that Keith Kincaid got down to the AHL. I mean, for Toronto, it would be a problem because they can't fit a $1.75 million contract under their cap. But for other teams, that's something that they could fit. And I know Vegas. See, that's the thing. Vegas is up against it. Toronto is up against it. Minnesota, I don't think, has a ton of room, so maybe they wouldn't be willing to pick up somebody for that kind of money. You know, maybe they would trade for a guy like that because they could move a contract out. But that's the situation that this league is in right now, where there are so many teams up against it. And I keep saying, and I said it to Russ a few times, Zach, there's going to have to be a compliance buyout or something that allows these teams to clear cap space, because these general managers cannot keep themselves from getting their teams into cap trouble. They continue to do it.
Well, another thing, Eck, we talked about this the other day, and it was very prevalent and on display yesterday. Malcolm Subban has played, 5, 6 of the last Vegas games because Marc-Andre Fleury took a leave of absence. His dad died. Certainly entitled to it. They won't play Garrett Sparks to the point where Subban was just a sieve yesterday.
Right. And that's because they know Garrett Sparks is a sieve.
Awful. And they just threw away 2 points. Like, again, in this league right now, Vegas is a playoff team at 35. I just heard, Hockey Central calling Calgary horrible. They're 34 points and Minnesota's 32. And so are the Sharks. So it's like, who's the really good team there? I mean, Vegas' defense, Vegas, without Marc-Andre Fleury, their defense is exposed. That's the point here. It's not good.
Oh, it's more than it's one of those things that just echoes through the whole team, because Vegas can play the way they want to play because of Marc-Andre Fleury back there.
That's why Mark Stone is a Selke candidate, because he plays good hard defense besides the offense he plays, because their forwards have to. Like, they don't have a choice.
No, they have to, and they don't have a solid defense, and then basically the only way they can play, balls to the wall, so to speak, is because of that. It's because of the story in there, because they have this, because they know that he's there. They know he's going to bail them out, and that's how that team has survived. That's how that team has done what it's done. That's why they've been better than they should be, and all those things. So otherwise, they become an expansion team, not like a complete expansion team, because they obviously have a really solid line in there of in Stone, Stastny, and all that. But they have to and Pacioretty, obviously, but they're beyond that. They're an expansion team on defense. There's no two ways about it. They're an expansion team in goal beyond Fleury. They are, and it's just those are the things that they have to deal with, and it's not getting fixed quickly. That's for sure. But I can't imagine. Georgiev now being anywhere but the Rangers. They think they'd have to figure out a way to make this work. He is. First of all, are they a playoff team or are they not a playoff team? They're probably not a playoff team, but still, he is. His goals against and save percentage, you can't send him down right now.
No, I don't think you can send him down, and I do believe you can put Shesterkin in there and not miss a beat. So I do think you have to trade him. I think you've shown everybody what he can do. I don't think there's a GM in the league that doesn't know what Alexander Georgiev is capable of, and he's been facing a lot of shots for the last 2 years and stopping most of them. That's the
If you're trading him, then what are you really saying? You're really saying that how many more years of Lundqvist are you looking at?
Not many, because Shesterkin's the guy they drafted with the eye of being the next goalie now.
But this is the thing with
but he's not proven yet where Georgiev is.
Right. But this is, I think that teams like the Rangers and teams like the Penguins are looking just as much as at the expansion draft as they are the here and the now. And the thing with Shesterkin is he's exempt from the expansion draft because he is a first year. He hasn't even been played in the NHL yet, so he'd be a first year player this year and a second year player next year, and he'd be exempt. Whereas, so they'd only have to protect Lundqvist. And I think Lundqvist is a UFA after next year. So
he is.
So they're going to have to protect one goaltender, and the one goaltender is probably going to be Lundqvist, but it could be they don't need to protect any goaltenders because Shesterkin would be exempt. So, that's their scenario. They could.
How about Lundqvist becoming the goaltender for the Seattle team? Like, is that possible? Is that scenario out there at all?
No, he won't do that.
No,
I wouldn't think so.
I think Lundqvist would retire before
he would retire. But Eck, here's the bigger thing. So what we're basically talking about Georgiev is the same thing that we're saying was said about Cam Talbot. It's the same exact thing. And in the end, the Rangers traded Talbot, and they got a pretty good trade for him. In the end, they should do the same thing again. Because, again, while Georgiev is good, Benoit Allaire is the secret ingredient to all these backup goalies.
Yeah.
Back to Steve Valiquette. No offense, Steve, but you used to beat Flyers every time.
Yeah, I know.
And lose to everybody else.
I mean, if I'm gonna pay a premium for one of these backup goaltenders, I would probably pay it more for Jerry, who was, by the way, second star of the week this year with a couple shutouts, than Georgiev. And it's not because Georgiev isn't good. It's just, he was signed as a free agent. He's sort of, and all the factors that Russ just said in terms of him being sort of propped up in his value by playing with Allaire or playing under Allaire and with the Rangers and guys like Talbot. He had one good year with Edmonton, after which he's been pretty much an average goaltender. Jerry, I think, is a future number one. He's 20.
But I don't think we're going to trade him until the end of the year.
Probably not. Not. That's why I think there's probably no chance. Like everybody's talking about these two guys, whereas I think that the guys who will get traded to these teams that need goaltenders are Jack Campbell and maybe Louis Domingue and a few other guys like that. It's not going to be these guys because these guys could be future number ones for other teams.
Well, that's why I still put a lot of weight in Ryan Miller. And then talking to somebody again today, I think that's more and more likely.
Yeah, this is the problem that I have with this act. First of all, and you said it right. Miller may be open to getting traded to a Stanley Cup contender. Look at the standings right now. The Toronto Maple Leafs are not a Stanley Cup contender.
That's very true, and definitely something that I think the Leafs have to get their act together first, and before this happens. And I don't think it happens till the deadline anyway.
Well, I mean, but
according, if you listen to Brian Burke and stuff like that, this trade has to be made yesterday, and I'm in agreement with him.
Brian Burke is in favor of giving up a second-round pick or a really good prospect for a backup goaltender, and I think that would be utter stupidity.
I'm absolutely 100% with him, and we had this fight before, but I honestly think that when he put it perfectly the other day when I heard him on XM saying that they have all this great stuff in place, and yet they have a fatal, tragic flaw that is going to keep them out of the playoffs and is going to hurt their potential of getting in there.
I'm not saying
I'll give you the trade. I'll trade Georgiev for Jeremy Bracco, and we could reunite Bracco with Adam Fox, with Jacob Trouba, with Ryan Lindgren, all those American kids. They all know each other.
And if I'm the Leafs GM, I tell Jeff Gordon to go fly a kite.
They should absolutely 100% do that. There's no reason they shouldn't do that because they're getting Georgiev, who's a really potential great goalie, and also could be the goalie that goes beyond Anderson.
Go fly a kite in a lightning storm. That's what I call it.
They're a guy who's barely a factor on their team right now, and Bracco is going to be good, but they are built to win now, and they have to look at that. They have to. They can't sit there and everyone in Toronto is used to the fact that we can't trade away prospects because we've done that in the past. But you got
that is my argument. Are they built rougher right now?
Well, they are.
They're not.
No,
they are. They are with the right goalies. They are. They're better than Vegas. If they have a goalie in there, they're better than Vegas.
They have a goalie. His name is Frederick Anderson, and he's been
How many goals has Hutchinson blown this year? How many?
He's 0-5-1. They've won one of a possible
12 points at least.
Yeah.
So where would the Leafs be? No. All right. So where would the Leafs be with 10 of those points?
No. Yeah. Okay, the most you can expect out of the average you can expect out of a backup goaltender is go 50-50. So say 7 out of 14 points.
Okay,
they would be in second place in the Atlantic if they had 7 out of 14. I'm not saying don't upgrade from.
You also have to look beyond Anderson too. Like you have to realize that Anderson is what he is now, and he's good and he's solid. And people think when I talk about Ryan Miller and all that stuff.
I'm saying upgrade. I'm saying you don't trade your second best prospect in your organization for a guy that you don't know is going to be any more of an upgrade.
What you do know is he's better than the guy you got.
Sure,
way better, and he has got way more potential.
You can get that guy
Oh,
cheaper.
this is ridiculous. This is such a ridiculous
You
argument.
can get that guy cheaper. You can.
You don't need cheap. You
You don't want cheaper. You want to win a friggin' Stanley Cup.
No,
You got
I am saying you can improve your backup goaltending and not give up a former first-round pick like Timothy Liljegren or a former second-round pick like Jeremy Bracco, who I think could be a very good NHL player. You can get a backup goaltender for Nick Patan.
You can't pay him if he's a good NHL player, first off. If he becomes a good NHL player, you can't afford to keep him. So, like, to me, like, the idea
sure you can.
We already have 4 players making $10 million for the rest of their
That's why you need players who make $800,000.
But like, Bracco's not going to be that. If he's going to be that good, eventually he's going to be in there, and you're not going to be able to pay him that. So you're going to be stuck. And you're going to have to make a move and then you're going to let 3 years pass where you had, Jonathan Taves and Austin Matthews going hard, and and all these guys in their primes right now with a team. It makes no sense. It's like
somebody look up and see what the percentage of wins Georgiev has. He's probably about 60% in the NHL. If you get somebody like Mike's talking about, you're going to have like 20% chance better winning than Hutchinson. So it'll be a few points. If you put in Georgiev, you're going to win the majority of the games, or at least.
And you're giving yourself insurance in case Anderson, God forbid, gets hurt. Which is
if Anderson gets hurt, their season is over. No matter who
your backup it doesn't have to be.
But it doesn't have to be. Eck is right about that.
For Bracco, it doesn't have to be, and that's ridiculous to me. Like to think about it.
This is the guy the Leafs have refused to play, and if they're not going to play him, he does deserve to get a chance somewhere.
Right. Here's the thing
I think he deserves to get a chance in Toronto.
Yes.
Going to. And here's the thing about that is that for Bracco, that this is no longer the Leafs team that it used to be, where you traded away prospects and it was a bad thing because you didn't have anything. This is not that. I feel like the Leaf fans are in this world where they're like, oh yeah, well we can't. We remember we traded away other prospects and it was terrible. But this is not that team. This is not that team. This team is on a course right now that it can't ignore.
This team has not proved anything yet.
Okay, but
then they shouldn't be paying these players $10 a year.
That's the way the league is now.
No one else is doing it with them.
Jack Eichel, all Jack Eichel did in the couple years before he signed his big contract was finish in last and second last place, and he got paid $10 million. This league pays players out of their entry level contracts, so them proving something to get paid, that's bullcrap. It never happens anymore.
Okay.
It's different.
How about this? Anderson's contract's up in 2 years, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Odds are even the young goalies you have will not be ready in 2 years to be in the NHL. They're going to have a goalie gap.
Right. So they'll re-sign Anderson.
But why re-sign Anderson if he never wins anything for $7 million?
It's not his fault that they haven't won anything. It's the fact that they don't play good enough defense and they don't have a backup capable.
Not only can you re-sign him at some point, but you'll re-sign him for what Anderson's making now, but in 2 years, you'll save yourself cap money. Yeah. At that point, if Anderson's not won anything, you don't want Anderson anymore, and then you're still waiting for one of the other guys to be your backup, and maybe one of them who's advanced can be your backup, but they're not going to be ready to be a number one. It would temporarily solve their problem for like the next 3 years.
I don't agree.
I don't see any. I don't know. I don't see any other team in the NHL will be doing that. There's no reason that they wouldn't be. But for some reason, this team's not going to do that. Like every other team follows that path. You can say what you want to, but they are paying for forwards $40 million right now, regardless.
I think that was a mistake.
But they are. So this is where they are. You know what I mean? So whether it's a mistake or not, you can't do another mistake with more mistakes.
You can extricate yourself from those mistakes by trading a guy like William Nylander at his highest value, which if he scores 30 goals this year, his value will be reestablished. You can trade him for defensive help. You can maybe get a goaltender in that deal, and you have young players at forward that you can bring up that like a Bracco. I'm not saying he'll do everything that Nylander did, but I think, trading a Kapanen or a Janssen doesn't give you enough cap relief. They're making in the threes. Nylander's making 7, and I'm telling you right now, he is not a superstar.
It gives you enough cap room to get Georgiev, though. And it gives you enough cap room to get those guys.
Georgiev is going to cost somebody a couple $1 million next year.
Heck, so what? Heck, I want to see the headline in 2 years when the Leafs sign Braden Holtby as a free agent goaltender, and Mike has to write about it. That's what I want to see.
I mean, that's the thing. It's like and they're going to spend another $10 million. I mean, if they sign him now, they could try to extend Georgiev for a reasonable price.
Correct.
And before he's making all that money, and then have themselves at least one goalie that's going to be one of their two for going forward, and he might turn into be Bobrovsky. He may turn into be something else, but you don't know. So as it's playing out, like to me, it's a no-brainer. You get it at least give her a chance. You're just wasting money otherwise. This year.
They're going to be getting like Braden Holtby or Crawford or somebody like that and taking up that time-old tradition of the Leafs signing a guy well into his 30s as a goalie, as a free agent, because they end up with the Leafs. That's what they're going to do.
Yes. And I say this out of love because I like this team. I really do. I really want this team to do. And I'm a Canadiens fan, but I like watching this Leafs team. But I get so frustrated with them because
I don't like watching them now.
I like watching them, and I look at them and I say to myself, okay.
No, last year I liked watching them, Mike. Not this year. Yeah,
this year they're frustrating, but I'm into now. Sheldon, young Sheldon's doing the job, and I think that's good, and we're going along with that, so and that's cool. And I think Sheldon Keefe is a great coach, and I think that it's a good thing. They made the perfect move there, and I give them credit for it because it was ballsy, and no one wanted them to do it, but I think it was great, and then they did it. But the fact is that no one wanted them to do it because they're living in a culture from before. But the fact that they did that means that they're living in a culture now, to me, and they should do this. If they're going to bring in Keith and get rid of Babcock this quickly, there's no reason to not bring in Georgiev for a guy like that.
Georgiev could be your Nick Foles. All right, I'm done.
No, absolutely. It's just
for Jacksonville.
I get it. I mean, and I get the frustration.
Okay.
I don't. How do you like watching? No, that's not someone says in the chat room. How can you like
Gardner Minshew?
I'm just telling you, man, it is so frustrating because this team has so much skill and talent, and I'll tell you something about Anderson, who I have been unfair on because he is a good goalie, and I know I rip him. But this is the thing about Anderson: he is a good goalie at certain kinds of goals. But there are moments when he's not good at off angle shots. He's not good at certain spots. He is very good, in tight, but he's not good from the point at times.
All I know is this, and it very easily got lost in the mix. Frederik Andersen was the main reason the Leafs won on Saturday. He made three stops in the first 2 minutes that kept St. Louis from opening the scoring. Toronto scored the opening goal, and then
I watched it. It was a great game.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's what you should do because that you're a Stanley Cup contender. You're starting goalie. You go up against another Stanley Cup team, and yes, you need your starting goalie to help.
All right, here's Freddie Anderson's numbers in the playoffs: .899 save percentage, .913. He had the great year of .947, .915, .896, .922 last year. A .916 career, but only a .911 with Toronto. That's it. 9-11, Mike.
And more than that, it's wins and losses for me. It's wins and losses because wins and losses factor in. Goalies play really well, but the way your goalie and the confidence you have in your goalie feeds the rest of the team. So
their defense sucks, and look at the amount of games he played in those 3 years: 66, 66.
I agree, but that's not changing. So at some point,
that's what I'm saying.
And because they didn't have a backup, they had to play Boston every friggin' year. And if not played Boston, they had a backup who could have won some games for them.
Well, that's the whole point. If you get Georgiev, it would change, Mike, because you wouldn't be forced to use Anderson.
Plus, you got Curtis McElhinney off of waivers.
Right.
You don't have to trade a second-round pick or a top 9 forward to get a backup goal.
There's Curtis McElhinney. It's a huge risk. I mean, you're throwing
talking about watching Haley's Comet from 2 years ago. It's over at this point.
You're talking about just risking it all on the fact that something like Curtis McElhinney will happen. Like that's pointless. Like why? I mean, that could happen. Yeah, sure. You might get best play ever.
When Mike's in a wheelchair one day, he's going to be like Curtis McElhinney. That's why we didn't win the cup, and this is year 2025, and the Leafs still haven't won the cup.
Yeah, and yet you have all this friggin' talent, and you've got the right coach, and you've got the right system. It's so crazy frustrating because it's like. I mean, my passion for the years you guys always used to rip on me for Nashville not having a backup goal. It was the same kind of thing, except this team's more talented than Nashville. And it's like even harder for me because this team actually has more offense than Nashville had. And yeah, Nashville had better defense for sure.
Trying to argue with the Leafs, they're not worth it.
God. Anyway, sorry.
Let's talk about Pageau.
Let's talk about Pageau, shall we? I think at the end of the day, it's just going to sign with Ottawa, and there's a whole lot of hoopla.
Crap. That's
I totally think he's going to sign with Ottawa. I thought that on authority. Like I've talked to people, they are working on that. But anyway, regardless, you guys could think.
Well, let's just say this. I think there's a better possibility of them trading him and re-signing him than there is of them re-signing him, because they're not going to pass up.
Do you think that's worked for them in the past, Mike?
Well,
tell me all the players Ottawa's traded and they've returned.
You cannot risk going to February 25th and not have traded Pageau.
Oh, no, you're right. You're right. No,
we'll talk on July 1. That means bye-bye.
You're right. No, if they get to that point, they have to do it. But they are trying to sign him before the end of like January. They're talking about like ahead of time. They really want to get him signed. The kid, he wants to play there. And that's the Senators actually have a guy who's from Ottawa, born and raised in Ottawa, who wants to play there. And that is something that they need to pay attention to.
Heck, they played him the other day against the Flyers as the top line center. He's not a top line center.
Oh no, he's not a top line center. No,
right. Which means they're inflating his value for a trade.
It reminds me a lot of Dzingel last year, right? Like the same kind of thing. You know, it's like Ryan Dzingel last year on Ottawa had great numbers before he gets traded. You know, and they end up getting a really good pick, and they're doing the same thing, right? But at the end of the day, they do need to keep some players on this team, and you can argue that Pageau,
leader of the team, Tom Chabot is the best defenseman. They're going to keep some players, but Pageau is going to be one they're not going to be able to, because at the end of the day, he will want to get paid after he gets traded. He's going to get one good payday in this league, and Ottawa's not going to give it to him.
Right. I mean, they may give it to him after they trade him. That's probably a long shot. Yeah, but he is an Ottawa kid, and maybe he wants to play for them. But that's not going to come at the cost of him making at least $4 million as a free agent.
No, but you could also argue very much that he's playing out of his mind right now. Like his career, he's always been crazy skilled. You've seen the skills there.
Right, but that's what the problem might be. The Ottawa may be offering him a long-term contract based on what they think he is, not what he's doing. And if they're like offering him what they think he is, they're probably offering him a 4-year deal, like $3.5 million. He can go out in free agency and get $4.5 million.
Ottawa's not going to be able to outbid anybody in free agency. They won't.
Right. I mean, I look at
if he scores 30, if he scores how many goals? He's now
got 15 goals right now. He's leading the team in scoring.
Right. So say he gets the 30, which would be a pretty good number.
Okay.
All right. So he gets the 30. This is his first time he's gotten anywhere close to that. Like he's well above any of his others. There's no way he's getting more than $5 million a year. There's no.
He won't get $5 million a year from Ottawa.
But he will get $5 million a year as a second line player in the NHL right now. Ottawa can get.
Clarkson scored 30 goals once and got 5.25.
I know, but that was ridiculous. I know that.
Ottawa extended Colin White, and they got him cheaper because he's a younger player, less proven, probably for like what, 3.5, Mike, something like that a year.
Who was that?
Colin White when they extended him?
4 something.
If Colin White cost them 4 something, somebody's paying 5.5 for Pageau because he's also a great penalty killer. He scores shorthanded goals. Ottawa can't afford him anymore.
Yeah, 4.75 for 6 years.
They're not paying anybody
8 times 8.
Yeah, but they're not paying. How can Ottawa not afford him? They're not paying anybody anything. I mean, Bobby Ryan's contract is going to come off the books soon too.
Another year at least.
Another year, but still, I mean, they are not.
We're talking money.
You can get Pageau. Like it's similar to like the Flyers. Can we all agree? Kind of got a deal for Konechny. I mean, they really got like a pretty good trade. I mean,
I told you they did.
Here's
Pageau is like the same kind of numbers as Konechny, and you can get a deal
of the current roster right now. Here's the reality. I'm counting right now. 7 unrestricted free agents next year. 7 restricted free agents, 4 of them arbitration eligible. They've got nothing on the books other than Artem Anisimov, Colin White, Nikita Zaitsev, and Shabbat. That's it. Everybody else is up except for
they'll have more money once they move to Quebec. You know this, right? Like it's going to change.
In the offseason, they're going to try and lock up Brady Tkachuk. That's what they're going to do.
Right. But
he's everything to them, right? So that makes sense. He's a great player, and they're going to get another good player this year, and they might get another player out of the Sharks draft pick this year. They have some things coming.
But I'm telling you right now, what Pierre Dorian is going to do before February 24th is trade everything that's not nailed down, and that's Pageau, that's Nemestikov, that's Hainsey, That's Craig Anderson if they can get anything for him. I'm telling you, and it's even Tyler Innes who's making $800,000. But if you don't think like a team that is tight up against the cap would not take a Tyler Innes as a fourth line guy because he's a veteran guy, they'll get probably a third or fourth round draft pick for him. So they're going to do that. That's their business model.
It can't be forever.
Eugene Melnick came out last April in Toronto and told reporters and told supporters of the Senators, "I'm not spending money on this team for 2 years."
Right.
27 years old. He was making 3-1 this year on a 3-year deal. Someone's going to give him 5-5 for 4 years.
Yep.
And it's not going to be them.
He's gonna get the Gustav Nyquist deal.
If he wants to stay in Ottawa, they will give him that. I predict.
No, I think if he wants to stay in Ottawa, I'll bet you Ottawa is offering him around 4 or 5.
If any team can get a 30-goal scorer for under $6 million a year, they'll do it. Who won't? I mean, why would Ottawa not do it?
Ottawa.
No, they wouldn't. They don't. It's not like they're up against the cap. I mean, they have no other excuses. I mean. He has them.
They have excuses. They have a penny pinching owner who doesn't want to spend money, who's in financial trouble.
Right.
They're gonna, you know what they're doing? They will acquire any contract that's been front loaded, so they can like
pay the cash and get out of it cheaper.
Right. What was it? Was it Derek Brassard? There was a deal from a couple years ago when they traded for Derek Brassard. Where Brassard had his salary was like $2 million in the last year of his deal, but the cap hit was like 4.5.
Right.
So yeah, they were paying out literally almost no money when the cap hit was extremely high. That's the model that they're going for right now. All these guys, they'll add more guys like that.
And Eck, what you forget about is next year Shabbat's $8 million kicks in.
Yeah, but that's obviously worth it. I mean, they can have a player like that.
They're going to have to get a goalie.
Yeah, they're going to have to get a goalie.
That's going to cost them $3 or $4 million.
I don't know who's in their system. Do they have any kids coming up?
Hogberg's not ready.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to Gustafsson. I don't even see him on.
And it seems like Anderson can play forever, right? But he's hurt now again.
He is hurt again. He got hurt in that Flyers game. Right now, Anisimov and White are two of and Zaitsev are their highest paid players. They'll probably bring back Ron Hainsey for another year. They'll bring back Borieski for another year. All these guys are free agents. Nemestikov is a free agent. They're all free agents. So they're going to go the absolute bare minimum. Whatever the cap floor is, that will be their salary for their team. Right. But in the interim, they're going to lock up as many of their young players, not a 27-year-old guy.
And next year, Batherson and all the guys that they sent down, Batherson, Verano, Norris, all these guys, Formanton, all of them will be up. Abramoff, maybe.
Well, along those lines, there are rumors. I started like my first little comment. I think they're going to sign them, but I also hear that Peugeot that the Montreal Canadiens are extremely interested in him now, and that's the latest rumor today. And I try my best not to report on Montreal Canadian rumors because there are so many out there. But this one I heard from too many people today to think that there's not something to it. And what's interesting right now is you're definitely getting, and I wrote this in my blog, you're getting this case where there are some players, Athanasio, Peugeot.
Well,
other players who may get traded before the freeze because teams are looking, like Ottawa and other teams are saying, okay, we have these guys. If you want to give us something now, we'll give you more to them to now.
Well, here's the one that's extremely interesting, and of course we've talked about Alex Galchenyuk for months and years, and now I get the feeling now it's like he was in Montreal, he was a disappointment there. He goes to Arizona, he was a disappointment there. He gets traded to Pittsburgh, and now the Elliot Friedman reported on the weekend that when a couple of their injured forwards are coming back, Galchenyuk will be, basically on the block. And there are reports out there that Buffalo is interested in him. Which makes sense because Buffalo is desperate for a second line center or top 6 guy. I don't know if Galchenyuk is that anymore.
Not that anymore.
But I think
there's no reason he shouldn't be that. But it's just at this point it was really risky to think.
But I think Buffalo would go for that simply because Pittsburgh is looking for defense. Buffalo is looking for forwards. They've got Scandella. They've got Bogosian. they're both expiring contracts. So is Galchenyuk. That's a trade where I think it would maybe be a help in both camps.
The only problem is, Mike, like as an example, Pittsburgh's got John Marino. He's playing better than Marco Scandella, and he's entry-level contract. Like, why in the world would they want to take on that Scandella money?
Well, I think because it's a wash. I mean, it's a wash.
I know it's a wash, but he's not that good a player anymore.
Yeah. Well, I think he's an improvement over some of their other defensemen. I'm not saying Marino, but I'm saying Jack Johnson. I'm saying a few other guys. They clearly
like he has to play. There's no way around that.
A couple of things we're sort of breaking in the last little bit here. One is that the Russian ban on major sporting events, which everybody's heard about, I'm sure by now, that's going to keep them out of the Olympics in Tokyo, does not include the World Junior Championships, because accordingly, it has been determined that the World Junior Championship is not considered a major event by the WADA. So Team Russia is free to play there. That's kind of a weird thing.
Why to refine things here? That's if they don't think that's major, they're crazy.
I mean, compared to what? Like compared to what is what? I mean, what? How many major events are there at the World
Cricket Championship?
Like are the Olympics and that's it, or what?
World Dart Championship. That's what
it's crazy. I don't even know.
I mean, and at the same time, like I feel happy for the Russians.
Yeah, the kids can play.
Assuming that they're,
yeah, but they'll never be able to grow up and play in the Olympics.
Yeah, I mean the Olympic thing is huge. Obviously, that's an enormous thing.
Well, NHLers may not grow up and be able to play in the Olympics the way things are going.
So, this brings me to 1984 when the Olympics were happening, and I was at the University of
Sarajevo. Yeah,
I was in the University of Houston, and Russia was not in the Olympics. If you remember, they boycotted. Yeah. Well, McDonald's had a promotion going, for spread offs. If you get a gold medal, you get like a free hamburger or whatever. And as a struggling college kid, I can't tell you how many USA things I unscratched and how many burgers I ate that year.
I was the only person.
Take off of this. There's a Simpsons episode that takes off on this whole incident that happened, and where they have it like it's the Summer Olympics, and the Krusty, you can get a free Krusty burger, and it's like they have like a showing like the women's 200-meter swimming thing, and it's like the U.S. swimming against most teams that are landlocked that don't have swimming pools in their country. It was like they were just like
I couldn't give a crap about Mary Lou Retton sticking that landing, but if it got me a free Big Mac, I was all in.
Yep.
Oh yeah. That's good stuff. That's really good.
You could literally order a little bit of food. Get the scratch off, get your free thing, and go up and eat that. So you would pay for half of what you normally would pay.
But let's just say this: 1984 Big Macs were so much better than 2019 Big Macs. I don't even know what's in that crap anymore.
I want to hear something really crazy. So another crazy thing here. Well, first of all, Patrice Bergeron is playing tonight. That's been confirmed. That's good for the Bruins. Maybe they'll win the division now. This is the crazy thing I saw. So last night, one of the Florida Panthers became the second leading point getter in Panthers franchise history, which is and it's at 395 points in his career. That's the second. That doesn't seem like a lot for a team that's been around for as long as they've been, but that makes him the second all time, with the first all time being at 419. So this guy before the end of the year is going to be the leading Panther of all time, and that would be Jonathan Huberdeau, which is insane. It's insane to me.
I'm not sure it's much of an achievement, but okay.
He's a good player. What was that?
He's a really good player, but
this is a really good player. But come on, they don't have a 1,000-point scorer on that team yet, or at least like a 500-point scorer. They don't even have a 500-point scorer on that team yet.
Heck, their top draft picks in their history have both been defensemen.
If Pavel Bure would have played like 4 years there, he'd be the leader.
Ed Jovanovski, Aaron Ekblad. I mean, I'm surprised it's not Barkov, but Barkov didn't score as much earlier on in his.
Where's Pavel Bure on the list?
Yeah, I wonder. He's got to be pretty high because we're only playing a couple seasons there. But he passed.
His knee folded, and he was too busy.
Huberdeau passed Stephen Weiss.
He was too busy having fun with the Anna Kournikova.
And you know who has the most points of all time for them? It's 419.
Olli Jokinen.
Olli Jokinen, exactly.
Yep.
And the thing that all these guys have in common, Olli Jokinen, Stephen Weiss, and Huberdeau, I've written about them in rumors.
They're all losers.
They're all rumor guys. They've all been rumored to be traded every friggin' year they've been in the league, it feels like.
Pavel Bure is 12th all-time in Panthers scoring. He only played 223 games.
There you go. That's insane. That's like
250 points. He averaged .682 points per game. He obliterates everybody on that list.
Okay,
It's not even 3 seasons. He doesn't play. He didn't even play 3 full seasons.
I want to mention this because I was a little surprised. I was a little surprised by this, based on the fact I thought he could be a good pro, and it sort of goes against the direction that I thought the Red Wings were going to be going. But Madison Bowie was placed on waivers today, Russ, and I'm like, okay. You know, they've got a lot of older guys who have big contracts that I thought Yzerman would want to be getting rid of, and I'm sure he does. But Bowie's relatively young. I know he didn't trade for him, but I saw him play in the minors. I thought he was an NHL defenseman.
I think it's the foot speed, Mike. I think he never graduated with the rest of them.
Yeah, and they're going more with the Roenics and the Hickett's and
But they want Lafreniere bad, and I will dispel the Jeff Marek midday debate, because we had this debate on a private call with a bunch of hockey people. Just because Quentin Byfield's a center, I won't take him ahead of Alexis Lafreniere. The reason being, Lafreniere will outscore him 20 points at least every year, and Lafreniere is going to be that guy that you are going to pass the puck to when you have the extra attacker on the ice and you're looking to tie the game.
Well, I'm anxious to see him play in the World Junior, because all I've seen basically is highlights off of YouTube and off of Twitter. So
you can't get married to the fact that centers are always more important and you should always draft a center. You can't stay married to that.
Let's say this: if the talents are equal,
right?
That's the thing. Do we think that his talent is Byfield's talent is equal to Lafreniere?
I don't.
So I wanted to bring this up at the end of the show here. This is the last time the Leafs held the Stanley Cup, and this is what the Stanley Cup looked like at that.
Stop it! That is not
1957. This is.
I mean, come on.
This is actually what the Stanley Cup did look like at one point, though.
I think the Stanley Cup gained a lot of weight over the years.
Really, the Stanley Cup, but the cup looked before its most recent design.
That's a svelte Stanley Cup.
Right? Yeah, it's very svelte, isn't it? It's like
that's because at that point, Russ, they weren't allowing TC Puck, the dog from the '67 Leaf team, on the cup.
It looks like when you're looking here, like one name is written like across here, like a time. It's hard to do. It's like a single name on each rung, kind of. That's how old this is.
Turk Broda. That's all they had room for.
Right.
Before even guys had numbers on their shirts. You see, that's like how old that is. So there you have it.
Yeah, even the top of the cup, you couldn't fit a full-size beer. Like you can only fit a full-size
beer. The cup is actually the same, Russ. It is actually the same.
It doesn't look it though. It looks smaller because of the base.
I'll give Funky Cold Zadina some credit here. He said the Wings waived Bowie and they've claimed Ziggy Stardust.
There you go. Well, Ziggy played guitar. All right, that's all we've got for today. We'll be back again tomorrow with more exciting what the Leafs did wrong talk. And remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. We'll talk to you then.